It began with a dare, an impulsive challenge issued by my friends to explore the long-forgotten park on the outskirts of town. We drove down dusty roads to the derelict amusement park known as Carnival of Whispers. Its once vibrant colors now faded and peeling under layers of grime. The air was heavy with the scent of rust and decaying dreams, and a near-permanent twilight cloaked the grounds. I remember feeling an inexplicable chill as soon as I stepped off the car, as if the park itself were warning us to turn back. Our flashlights sliced through the oppressive darkness, revealing broken rides and crumbling facades. The ticket booth still stood with shattered glass, and on every wall were faded images of smiling clowns. But these were no longer symbols of joy. Their painted grins were now twisted into grotesque parodies, their eyes seemingly following our every step. At the heart of the carnival lay the funhouse, its entrance marked by a giant archway adorned with a massive grinning clown. I pushed open the creaking door, and a blast of stale air welcomed me into a world of warped mirrors and echoing footsteps. As I wandered deeper, I heard it, a distant, hollow sound of laughter, a childlike giggle that morphed into something sinister in the darkness. Drawn by morbid curiosity, I followed the sound to a narrow corridor lined with carnival props. There, beneath the flickering light of a broken neon sign, stood a lone clown. His costume was tattered, his face smeared with old makeup, and his eyes, empty yet oddly sorrowful, seemed to plead for recognition. I couldn't tear my eyes away as he slowly approached, his presence both menacing and heartbreaking. The clown halted a few paces away and tilted his head as if studying me. From a battered bag slung over his shoulder, he produced a faded photograph, a snapshot of the park in its glory days, featuring a group of performers, including himself. In a low, raspy whisper, he said, "I was once the star, now I am forgotten." The words, laced with anguish, echoed down the corridor as if they were part of the building's very foundation. Before I could speak, he turned and melted into the shadows. My heart hammered in my chest as I staggered back toward the entrance. Outside, my friends waited in silence, their faces drained of color. We fled the park, but the image of that sorrowful clown remained seared in my memory. Weeks later, after some research into the park's dark past, I discovered a chilling tale. A beloved clown performer had vanished under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Rumors said his spirit lingered, doomed to perform for eternity, seeking acknowledgement from anyone brave enough to trespass his domain. I now wonder whether I witnessed a lost soul, or if that encounter has forever bound me to the carnival of lost dreams. When I accepted the night shift guarding the abandoned amusement park, I never imagined the nightmares that would soon haunt me. Once a haven of joy, the park had been shuttered for years after a string of inexplicable tragedies. My job was simple: to ensure that no vandals disturbed the decaying relics. I set up my post near the old roller coaster, its tracks twisting like skeletal remains against a moonlit sky. Night after night, I patrolled the park, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The wind whispered through broken rides and empty stalls, carrying distant echoes of laughter. One particularly frigid night, as I neared the derelict funhouse, I caught sight of a small, red balloon drifting silently along the pathway. Compelled by an uneasy curiosity, I followed it. The balloon led me to the entrance of the Clown Pavilion, a building that had once echoed with mirth and merriment. I pushed open its creaking door and entered a vast, dusty hall. Rows of decayed seats faced a decrepit stage draped in cobwebs. It was there I first heard it, a soft, almost mocking giggle, reverberating off the walls. I stepped onto the stage, and in the dim light I saw them, a cluster of clowns with faces painted in garish hues now smeared by time. They gathered around a makeshift table, engrossed in what appeared to be a ritualistic performance. Their eyes glowed unnaturally in the darkness, fixed on an ancient, tattered book laid open before them. One clown, his smile unnaturally wide, raised a hand as if beckoning me closer. I couldn't tear my gaze away. His voice, a haunting blend of sorrow and menace, whispered, "Welcome to our eternal show." The words mingled with the sound of dripping water and the groaning of old wood. My pulse thundered in my ears as I realized these were no ordinary performers. They were echoes of a tragic past, bound to the park by an unholy pact. I tried to retreat, but a paralyzing dread rooted me to the spot. The clowns began a discordant song, their voices rising in a chilling crescendo. In a flash, they dissolved into shadows, leaving me alone on the forsaken stage. I bolted from the building and raced through the park until I reached my security post. Even after reporting the incident the next morning, I knew deep down that I had glimpsed a horror beyond understanding. A realm where laughter turned to terror. Now, on moonlit nights, when the wind howls through the broken rides, I can still hear that ghostly laughter echoing through the park, a reminder that the eternal show is never over. The urban legend of Laughingstock Amusement Park had long captivated local teens, a place where the echoes of past laughter were said to hide a terrible secret. Drawn by a mix of bravado and morbid curiosity, my friends and I planned an overnight exploration of the park, a decaying monument to joy and tragedy, abandoned for decades. As dusk bled into night, we arrived at the park's rusted gates. The peeling sign, its letters nearly illegible, simply read, "Laughingstock." We wandered along overgrown pathways, our footsteps stirring up dust and debris. The once vibrant park now lay in ruins. Broken rides, vacant stalls, and the lingering scent of stale cotton candy mingled with decay. Our hearts pounded in equal parts excitement and dread as we approached the Grand Marquee, its stage overtaken by darkness and neglect. Inside the shattered theater, remnants of the park's past life lay scattered. Old costumes, faded posters, and a single solitary chair center stage. That's when we heard the carousel's distorted tune. A soft, eerie melody that echoed through the empty hall. Drawn toward its source, we discovered a hidden door backstage, leading to a trove of clown memorabilia. Among the relics was a battered red nose and a series of black and white photographs featuring a once-beloved performer known as Jingles. The temperature plummeted as we pieced together the tragic history. Jingles had been the star attraction, adored by all, until a mysterious fire consumed the park one fateful night. Whispers claimed his spirit was trapped within these grounds, condemned to perform his final act for eternity. My skin crawled as a low, rasping laugh emerged from the shadows behind us. We turned to see him, a spectral clown slowly materializing. His costume was ragged, his face smeared with faded makeup, and his eyes held a profound sorrow that belied his menacing smile. With a voice both gentle and chilling, he beckoned, "Come, join the final act." In that moment, time seemed to freeze. Our hearts hammered as the ghostly figure advanced, his every step measured and unnervingly graceful. Panic erupted as we scattered in every direction, desperate to escape the clutches of the haunted park. The derelict rides groaned, and distant, maniacal laughter filled the air. I ran blindly through the maze of rusted attractions until I reached a crumbling exit. Only then did I dare look back. There in the murky distance, the spectral clown watched us, his gaze unwavering, as if waiting for our return. Even now I question whether that night was merely a twisted hallucination, or a brush with a spirit doomed to an eternal, macabre performance. The final act of Laughingstock continues, and for those who dare trespass, the show might just claim you as its next star. I'd always been drawn to the macabre, fascinated by urban legends that whispered of places long forgotten. So when I first heard about Sunset Carousel, a derelict amusement park rumored to harbor restless spirits, I couldn't resist investigating. On a brisk autumn evening, I parked my car near its rusted gates, where a faded sign creaked in the wind. The park, once alive with laughter and vibrant colors, now lay in ruin. Broken rides, shattered attractions, and peeling murals of clowns painted a picture of despair. Stepping cautiously along the cracked pathways, I noted the eerie silence. The only sounds were the crunch of gravel beneath my feet and the occasional groan of metal from an abandoned ride. As I ventured deeper, a strange, echoing laughter reached my ears, a sound that was both playful and sinister. Following the source, I soon found myself before a dilapidated funhouse, its entrance marked by a tattered banner boasting, "Fun for all," in bold, ghostly letters. Inside, the once cheerful space had transformed into a maze of distorted mirrors and flickering neon. My flashlight's beam danced across the walls, briefly illuminating faded carnival posters that once featured smiling clowns. Now those painted faces seemed to twist into macabre expressions of agony and despair. In one room, I encountered a life-size statue of a clown. Its eyes, though merely painted, appeared to follow me as I moved. "Clown?" he asked. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. Was I truly alone here? I pressed forward, recording everything on my phone. In a corner of a narrow hallway, I discovered a series of hastily drawn children's sketches. They depicted a carnival scene, but the clown's grins were unnaturally wide, almost pained in appearance. My pulse quickened as I began to sense a message hidden in these crude images. A warning, perhaps, or a plea for help from the park's long-lost souls. Then, my attention was drawn to a small dust-laden trunk tucked away behind a fallen curtain. Inside, I found a tattered diary belonging to Arthur, a clown who once graced the park stage with infectious laughter. His entries were at first joyful, but soon turned dark. He wrote of a sinister force that had seeped into the park, promising eternal merriment at a terrible cost. In the final entry, his handwriting trembled as he scrawled, "The painted smile claims us all." Before I could absorb the meaning, a sudden gust of icy wind extinguished my flashlight, plunging me into darkness. In that suffocating blackness, I heard the unmistakable sound of shuffling footsteps and a soft, mocking giggle. With trembling fingers, I reactivated my light. There, emerging from the shadows, was a lone figure, a clown in a tattered suit. His face was a ghastly mask of white makeup, marred by cracks and streaks of dried blood. His smile, unnaturally wide and forced, was the very embodiment of despair. In a voice both hollow and beckoning, he whispered, "Join us." I bolted from the funhouse, heart pounding in terror, the echo of his laughter chasing me out into the night. Even as I raced across the overgrown grounds, I could sense his eyes watching, following my every step. I left the park that night with more questions than answers. Was Arthur's diary the work of a madman, or was it a desperate attempt to warn the living? Now, when dusk falls and the wind carries echoes of a long-forgotten carnival, I sometimes glimpse a ghostly figure in the distance, an eternal performer with a painted smile, forever waiting for the next curious soul to join the cursed spectacle. I'd never believed in ghost stories until the night I found myself inside Whimsy World, an abandoned amusement park whispered about in local legends. Its gates, rusted and creaking, opened onto a realm of faded glory and overwhelming desolation. Once a haven of joy, the park was now a graveyard of dreams. Rusted rides, collapsed stalls, and empty pathways that wound like lost memories through the dark. Driven by a mix of skepticism and morbid curiosity, I ventured in just after twilight. The air was thick with a sense of decay, and as I walked past the remnants of a defunct carousel, I couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were upon me. The silence was broken only by the creak of old metal and the whisper of the wind through broken banners. It wasn't long before I began noticing something impossible. A series of small footprints trailing along the dusty paths, leading towards the park's central marquee. The marquee, once home to raucous performances, now stood as a decaying relic, with torn red velvet curtains. Inside, a single spotlight flickered over rows of empty seats, casting long, ghostly shadows across the stage. It was there that I heard it. A faint, childlike giggle echoing from backstage. The sound pulled me deeper into the building, past rows of abandoned props and scattered remnants of a once grasped performance. Bringing up the rear, In a narrow corridor behind the stage, I discovered a hidden passage lined with relics of the park's past. Among the treasures were faded photographs of a smiling clown known as Bubbles, his eyes twinkling with life in days long gone. There, amid scattered memorabilia, lay a peculiar antique carousel horse. Its carved features were strikingly lifelike, yet its grin was disturbingly fixed, as if the horse were in on some unspeakable secret. Before I could examine it further, a sudden chill swept through the passage. The sound of footsteps, small and deliberate, echoed behind me. I turned sharply, and in the dim light I saw him, a gaunt clown, his eyes hollow and his face painted with a garish, permanent smile. He moved with unnerving grace, gliding toward me as if drawn by some irresistible force. "Welcome," he said in a soft, sinister tone, "to your last ride." Frozen in terror, I watched as spectral figures materialized around me. Clowns from a bygone era, their painted faces contorted into expressions of eternal sorrow. The gaunt clown extended a gloved hand, beckoning me to join their eerie parade. In a desperate bid for escape, I bolted down the corridor, only to find the exit blocked by a wall of grinning specters. Their laughter, high and mocking, swirled around me, each note a reminder of a life lost to the park's cursed allure. With every step, the sound of the carnival's final ride grew louder until I felt myself trapped in a macabre dance. The gaunt clown's voice followed me, even as I stumbled into the open night air. I ran blindly through the overgrown grounds, the haunting laughter chasing me, until I finally burst through a broken fence and into the safety of the night. Yet even now, I cannot shake the memory of that final ride. Late at night, when darkness falls and the wind carries the faint echoes of carnival music, I sometimes sense a presence lurking near the abandoned park, a silent invitation to return and take one's last ride, joining the eternal performance of Whimsy World.